Hatch patterns have been a major part of drafting since the days of paper and pencil. Well-placed hatch patterns can add visual interest to your drawings and help you represent materials to be used for construction. They're also very easy to create. I'm going to come up and open a drawing. I'm going to click my Open icon, and we're going to look inside our Exercise Files folder. Inside the Chapter 6 folder, we're going to grab drawing number 3, the hatch drawing. I'll highlight that guy and I'll click Open. On my screen, I've got some abstract geometry, and we're going to use this geometry to learn how the hatch command works. I'm going to start by hatching this circle. So let's zoom in on the circle. We'll pan over and center him on the screen. If I'd like to create hatch, I'm going to come over to my Draw toolbar and I'm going to click on the hatch icon. This will bring up my hatch dialog box. In the upper left-hand corner of the box is the area where I can select my hatch pattern. If I go to the pattern area and I click the drop-down, I can see all of the names of all of the hatch patterns available in AutoCAD. If I select a pattern by name, AutoCAD will show me a swatch, a representation of what that hatch looks like. Now, I'm not very good at remembering all the names, so the way I like to choose my patterns is by clicking this ellipsis button. If I click this, it brings up the hatch pattern palette. This guy's separated by tabs, and from here I can choose a tab and then I can select a swatch. Just an easier way of selecting your pattern. Let's choose the ANSI 37 pattern. I'm going to click on this guy to highlight him and click OK. I have just chosen that hatch pattern. Now that we've got our pattern selected, we need to look at our boundary. How are we going to hatch our object? There are two ways to hatch our objects. We can either do it by selecting an object or by picking points. We're going to look at select objects first. This is the method we use when we have a nice closed object that we can select and apply a hatch. I'm going to click the Select Objects icon, and at this point AutoCAD's asking me to select an object, so I'm going to move over my circle and click to select it, and then I'll right-click to finish the selection. Let me select Enter. At this point, AutoCAD brings me back to the dialog. From here, I can come down to the lower left-hand corner and click Preview, and we can take a look at our hatch pattern. That's a pretty dense pattern. If I zoom in, I can see that that pattern's very, very small. Let's make a change to it. Remember that we're in the Preview function right now. If I look at my command line, AutoCAD says, pick or press Escape to return to the dialog, or I can right-click to accept the hatch. I'm going to hit my Escape key to return to the dialog. When I do, the place we're going to go to correct our hatch is the Angle and Scale area. Right now my scale is way too small. Let's try and use a scale of 10 and see how that looks. I'm going to highlight the existing number and type 10, and we'll click Preview again. Notice the hatch pattern looks a lot nicer now. I'm going to go with this pattern, so I'm going to right-click to accept hatch. Let's back up. I'm going to pan over. Let's look at this geometry. I would like to hatch the area between the circle and the rectangle. We already know that our circle is a nice closed shape. Well, this rectangle happens to be a nice closed shape as well. If I click on this, I can see AutoCAD treats it as one piece. This rectangle was created using the rectangle command. So I'm going to hit my Escape key to deselect these entities, and let's try and hatch them. I'm going to come over and click my hatch icon to bring up the hatch dialog. From here, once again, we can select our pattern. Notice AutoCAD is remembering the previous settings from our last hatch pattern. I'm going to click the ellipsis button. We'll go to the Other Predefined tab, and I'm going to select a different pattern. See, now I'm getting picky. We'll grab the stars pattern and click OK. Now that we've selected our pattern, we need to determine how we're going to hatch our objects. Let me drag this over. Once again, in the boundaries area, I'm going to use the Select Objects method because I have two closed objects. Let me click the icon. AutoCAD asks me to select objects. I'll select my circle, and then I'll move up and I'll select my rectangle. When I'm done with my selection, once again, I'm going to right-click so the computer knows I'm done selecting objects. And from here, I could select Enter to go back to the dialog. Notice I also have the ability to do a preview right from here. I'm going to select Preview, and we'll take a look at our hatch. Okay, not too bad. I'm going to hit the Escape key. I want to go back to the dialog. Notice that in addition to scale, we can also adjust our angle if we wish. I have several choices available. Let me close this up. I'm going to leave that at 0. The setting that I want to talk about right now is the associative setting. The associative setting means that my hatch pattern is related to my entities, meaning if the entities change, the hatch pattern will change also. I'm going to click the OK button to accept my hatch. Now, just for the sake of science, to show you how the associative property works, I'm going to click on my rectangle. It'll give me these little blue handles around the outside. I'm going to move over a handle and left click. That little handle turns red, and as I move my cursor, I get the rubber band effect. I can tweak this geometry. Let me click again on my screen to set a new location for that corner, and notice that the hatch pattern goes along for the ride. So I can come up and click on the corner, I can come down, I can click this corner, and I can come over and click. The hatch pattern is associative. It is related to those entities. Let me back up. We'll pan up and we'll look at this guy. What if I would like to hatch the area in between these three lines? If I click on each one of these lines, I can see that they're individual entities. So in this case, I can't do a select objects because I don't have an object to select. Let me hit escape to deselect those lines. And let's look at how we can hatch this area. I'm going to come over and launch my hatch command again. Click on the icon. Choose a pattern. We go to the ellipsis. This time I'm going to go to the ANSI pattern and I'm going to grab ANSI 31. I'll click OK. And for my boundary, since I don't have a nice closed object to select, I'm going to use the pick points method. Let me click the icon. The pick points method will allow me to select an internal point. For instance, if I move my cursor right inside this shape, when I click, AutoCAD will fan out and find the edges of the shape. It's kind of like throwing a rock in a puddle. Okay, we just click in the middle, AutoCAD fanned out and found the edges. Right-click to finish the selection, and I'll select Preview. Okay, I've just hatched the interior of those lines. Now that I'm done with my hatch pattern, I'm going to right-click to accept the hatch. Let's look at how we can use the hatch pattern in a practical example. I'm going to pan over. I've got my bathroom drawing. Now I'm starting to get a lot of line work in this drawing, and I'd like to put a hatch pattern on the interior of my walls to help simplify the appearance of the drawing. Let's try that. I'm going to launch my hatch command. I'm going to use the same settings that I used before. Now the method that I'm going to use to hatch this, we didn't check that. Let me hit cancel for a second. Each one of my walls is an individual piece. I don't have a nice closed shape here. So I'm going to use the pick points method. Deselect my lines. Let's go back into hatch. I'm going to keep my settings as is, and I'm going to select the pick points method. Let me click the icon. AutoCAD asks me to pick an internal point. I will move inside the wall and left click. AutoCAD fans out and finds the edges. Notice it came all the way around and it stopped at the window. It couldn't get past the window. That's okay because AutoCAD is still giving me the opportunity to pick another internal point. I can pick more than one internal point if I wish. Let me move over and I'll click inside this wall, and AutoCAD finds all of that area. Now that I'm done selecting my areas, I'm going to right-click and let's select Preview. All right, I'm going to go with that pattern. It looks good to me. I will right-click to finish the command. If you want to edit hatch, editing your hatch is very easy in AutoCAD. All you have to do is double-click on it. If I move over this hatch pattern and double-click, AutoCAD brings up my Hatch Edit dialog, and it's just like I'm creating this hatch pattern for the first time. Let's grab a different pattern. I'm going to change the pattern to ANSI 37 and click OK. Let's click OK, and I've just changed my hatch pattern. Hatch patterns can be very effective in helping you visually organize your drawings. They can also quickly transform an average drawing into a professional-looking presentation.